Welcome to Soccer Morning on NASN. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome into Soccer Morning ahead of a fantastic weekend of soccer across the globe. We will talk about soccer across the globe today on the best live soccer program on the internet, as far as I'm concerned. If you have any, if you disagree, if you have any complaints with that, send them to me. I'll handle them personally. At DavisJSN on Twitter, at Soccer Morning. Hit us up there as well. Today's a big program. Excited to talk to Grant Wahl from Sports Illustrated. He'll join us in less than 10 minutes. He's in Seattle. He's there, I'm assuming, to take in the big TFC Seattle Sounders match. Michael Bradley, Jermaine Defoe set to make their debut for Toronto FC. First game of the season for the Ontario team. And we'll talk to Grant about that. We'll talk to Grant about Brazil. Less than 100 days from Brazil. Almost. Is today 91 or is today 90? Hold on. Let me check my official FIFA.com countdown page. Actually, it doesn't have it on the front. 90 days to go today. 90 days to go, says FIFA.com. So it's 3 months away, essentially, if you think in terms of a 30-day month. Also on today's show, Andy Edwards from Kansas City. We'll talk to him about Sporting's win over Cruz Azul in the CONCACAF Champions League, what that means for next week's leg. Can Sporting, on the back of an MLS Cup championship, can they be the team to break through in this competition? Do they have the horses? Is their style the right kind of stuff? Can they go to Cruz Azul and do what they do? Because I would have my concerns. You play Sporting Kansas City soccer for 90 minutes in altitude at Cruz Azul. I mean, don't you think you might keel over at some point? How fit are those guys up there in Kansas City? No, we know Peter Vermees likes his guys to be fit. We better be extra super fit for that game. Well, we start today, before we get to Grant Wahl, and I may ask him about this little development as well. Romario, Brazilian footballing legend Romario. We all know Romario. You probably know that Romario went into public service after his career and is now something of a politician, something of a populist advocate in Brazil. He has been an ardent critic of the World Cup in Brazil for quite some time now, since things started to show that they were a little shaky. Some of the money wasn't going where it was supposed to, that there were cost overruns that were going to cost the people, that the transportation infrastructure wasn't going to be upgraded the way that they had promised in Brazil, that the healthcare system was still going to be a problem for the majority of Brazilians, that the income gap was widening in Brazil. So Romario went on television in Brazil yesterday. Maybe it was, I'm not sure if it was yesterday, but it was in the recent past. He said, for the history of this guy, talking about Jerome Valcke, number 2 at FIFA, he's one of the biggest racketeers in world sport. He did blackmail with FIFA's president, Sepp Blatter, who is a thief, corrupt, and a son of a bitch. Sorry for that expression, but that is what we coexist with. Valcke even said that the World Cup in Brazil will be one of the worst in the history of FIFA. This guy comes here in my country, says these speeches, and everybody claps their hands, and all is all right. We have spent an absurd amount for the World Cup, and going forward, it'll get even worse. Brazil has a lot of thieves. That's the truth. I have spoken, and I will repeat here. Now we have to cheer for Brazil to win on the field because it would be perfect for football. But off the pitch, we've already lost, and there is no way to reverse it. This is not new sentiment coming from Romario. There's our man Seth. It's just that he is being extremely public. That there these things are, maybe he's being a little bit more, he's throw the vitriol around a little bit more. Invectives are coming out. Name calling is happening. I'm sure he's called Blatter and Valcke names in the past. I'm sure he's done that. And he is, again, one of the leading Brazilians in terms of, making sure that people understand that this World Cup hasn't gone the way it's supposed to. This World Cup, despite being in the home of football, has turned into a disaster. He's right. I mean, based on what we know. And yeah, I'm sitting here and I haven't been there. And this is why I'm going to ask Grant. And this is why we need to get these perspectives. And I told you to go read Wright Thompson's piece, 100 Days Out. because we need to know what's happening in the country. We shouldn't forget that outside of the game and outside of the competition, outside of what we are looking forward to in terms of the U.S. men's national team or whoever we support, that this World Cup is as much about the country of Brazil and the people who live there as it is the sport. We have FIFA on one hand, this edifice of corruption and greed just based on their reputation. We've had, and remember that Brazil is also the country of Ricardo Teixeira and Havelang and those corruption issues. So Romario is speaking from direct experience with his own countrymen when it comes to what FIFA malfeasance is like. Why would he trust anything? And now we've seen it again. And you see, Sepp Blatter has already canceled any speeches during the opening ceremonies of this particular World Cup, because why would you set him up there, or anybody for that matter, to be booed and castigated and whistled at? That's what that's where we are now. This World Cup is unpopular enough in Brazil, which is stunning in its own right. When this World Cup was given to Brazil, was it 7 years ago? That long ago, right? That's part of the deal, right? 7 years to get ready. 7 years for the politicians to figure it out. 7 years for the money to be properly channeled so that there weren't cost overruns. So that a stadium that was supposed to cost $500 million didn't end up costing $750 million. So that the infrastructure upgrades could have been done in time. 7 years. And we've been talking about this. And 7 years ago, if you said, by the time we get to 2014, you're going to have an incredibly divided Brazil. Half of Brazil, I don't know if these numbers are down to complete accuracy, but the feeling is, and this is what Grant wrote 100 Days Out, that there are two different Brazils when it comes to this World Cup. The Brazil of, hey, we're doing okay. I got no complaints. I got cash. Inflation is inflation. I'll go out and I'll pay the insane ticket prices to go to Maracanã. And then you have the rest of Brazil. And maybe it's not 50-50. Maybe it's 37. The rest of Brazil saying, yeah, we love this sport. This is our game. We love this game. We want our team to go and win another World Cup. But look what you're doing to us. You're using the thing we love to make us even more miserable than we already were. And we had concerns. And of course we're going to speak out. We're not going to just step aside because it's football. Oh, look, the world's coming to Brazil to celebrate the world's game. What are the people of Brazil who are upset over all of these issues supposed to do? Stand to the side? Just let them go by? Yeah, go ahead. Use my country. Use the stadiums that my government has built with billions of dollars that could have gone to other places. No, of course not. And again, we should not forget that. We're all going to turn our televisions on come June and watch this tournament play out, and we're going to revel in the games. And we'll debate whether or not it's good soccer and whether the Champions League is better and all of these things that we do with the World Cup. We shouldn't forget that other element. And I'm sure, based on the news reporting capabilities of some of these outlets and ESPN, I hope will give a good accounting of what's going on the streets of Brazil. Hopefully we won't forget, and hopefully we won't have a reason to forget. And Romario certainly won't let us forget. He definitely won't. Grant Wahl, senior writer at Sports Illustrated. He'll join us in just a second. We'll talk MLS. We'll talk Brazil. Don't go anywhere. Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Ooh, we'll get rid of that one. Let's try.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
Sometimes your fingers just don't work. On the line with me now. Let me get rid of all of this stuff. Let's just get rid of all of this. Sorry about that. That was a disaster. Grant Wahl's on the line with me now. Hi, Grant. How are you?
Hi, Jason. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm not nervous. I've spoken to you several times in the past. I don't know what that was. It's just a disaster in terms of the music, but that's not why people are here anyway. They're here to talk, to listen to us talk about soccer. Hi, Grant. So, big MLS weekend coming up. You mentioned before we came on the air just now that you got your annual MLS ambition rankings coming out later today. Those get people talking, certainly. And in light of the fact that tomorrow in MLS, we see the likely debut of Michael Bradley and Jermaine Defoe for TFC as they take on the Seattle Sounders, it seems appropriate that this is the time to drop those rankings.
Yeah, because let's be honest here. These are the top two teams in my ambition rankings for a reason. I've been doing this for 3 years now. And Seattle just raised the bar when they signed Clint Dempsey for $33 million of committed money last year. And then Toronto raised him even more with the nearly $100 million committed to Michael Bradley and Jermaine Defoe. And it's really taken MLS into a new era of spending for U.S. national team players in their prime. And, I know that Clint Dempsey has underperformed since he got to Seattle. But at the same time, that's not Seattle ownership's fault, and it's quite a step that both these teams have taken the last several months to get to a new level.
Now, we obviously don't want to jump to conclusions on early season results. I mean, we saw Sporting go to Seattle. Seattle gets a late goal. It's just what Seattle does. We're going to be watching them closely, just as we'll be watching TFC, and it makes me wonder how quickly, because it's human nature, whether we know we shouldn't be doing it or not, how quickly Michael Bradley will be judged ahead of a World Cup on his play. If he has a bad game tomorrow, what does that mean for our perceptions of Michael Bradley's move?
Well, I mean, people will have an opinion on what they see, right? And it's not necessarily unreasonable to have one. And then there will be another game soon, and people will continue to have more opinions. I mean, if you I love the fact that there's pressure and anticipation around this early season MLS game, and that there is pressure on these teams to perform heading into the season. So, is it fair to judge guys on one or two games? Probably not, but we'll have quite a few games in succession here to get some opinions on things.
It's interesting as well that I saw this in Doug McIntyre's piece on ESPN FC about Toronto and coming into the season and the expectations and everything else. Ryan Nelson, who will be under the microscope almost as much as his players this season, has sort of already pulled people back, or trying to pull people back a little bit with his comments. I mean, he's saying things like, well, it's going to take us a while and this is a process. And I get that. I get that. But it definitely seems like he's not even sure. And that doesn't bode well, does it?
That's strange to me. And I understand coaches wanting to, dampen expectations. But, Tim Leiwecke's expectations are that this team will be good this year. And Tim Leiweke is the guy that matters most in Toronto. And he did not hire Ryan Nelson. Ryan Nelson is a good guy who had some ups and downs as a coach last year. But I think he's under a lot of pressure to do well with this team. I personally think that it's possible for Toronto to make the playoffs this year, but to perhaps have a slow start in which Nelson may or may not survive.
That would obviously be interesting. I mean, he is, you said, he's the one holdover from the pre-Leiweke era. He was a Kevin Payne appointee, and we'll see if he can last the whole season. Given the opportunity here, plenty of talent. It's just whether or not he can figure out a configuration that'll work for them. To flip it back to Seattle, you mentioned Clint Dempsey, and he hasn't been playing well, and we can argue about whether or not going to Fulham was the right decision for him in the offseason. He needs to show something, not only for Seattle, but again, this is a World Cup year, and national team fans are closely watching him.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who signed a big contract and got paid, and great for him and his family, and he deserves it. But you then need to then earn it on the field as well after you sign the contract. And so far we haven't seen that yet from Clint Dempsey in Seattle. And he's earned a lot of credit over the years with how he has approached the game and all the achievements he's had. But, people are starting to check their watches in Seattle and starting to wonder when they're going to see the Clint Dempsey that they've seen play for Fulham in the U.S. national team. And Clint knows that. He's not a dummy. And he needs to get in good form ahead of the World Cup because no spot's guaranteed on that field, even the captain's.
You look at the MLS schedule for the weekend. Obviously, Seattle and Toronto, NBC stage for that game. That's the big one people are circling. But then there are some interesting storylines in some of these other games. Philadelphia, New England. We want to see if the Revs. I think you picked the Revs to win MLS Cup. Did you do that?
I did indeed. I didn't have them winning the Supporters Shield. Portland's my choice for Supporters Shield, but I do think New England has the talent to string together a really good run of results in the postseason and win MLS Cup, which I think is sort of a crapshoot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously last week was disappointing for Revolution fans to see them just go down big early in Houston and provide basically no resistance whatsoever and make Will Bruin look like Gerd Mueller.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just one game, and Lee Nguyen isn't in there right now. And I think the Revs will start turning things around here eventually. Or maybe I just made a bad pick.
Well, they had the offseason sort of, Jose Gonzalez had some issues in terms of what he was going to be paid, and there's some hurt feelings there. And Andrew Farrell, who played very well as a rookie last year, he didn't play in Houston. I'm not sure he'll be available against Philadelphia. And you mentioned Lee Nguyen. And then, again, eyes on the player that people are watching most probably in that lineup is Diego Fagundes. Is he going to back up his 13-goal season from last year as a 19-year? I mean, he's still only 19. Could he possibly get in even better? So we were watching that. And Philadelphia, I mean, not to gloss over the improvements they made in the offseason. And if you looked at those things heading into the year, you kind of picked out some teams that would improve the most. Maybe you had Philadelphia on that list, and then they went to Portland, and your Supporter Shield favorite, the team I have winning MLS Cup this year, and they outplayed them for 94 minutes until giving up a late goal. So Philadelphia is already sort of jumping up. I don't know where they are in your ambition rankings, Grant, but clearly they have shown something else than something they may have not shown before.
Yeah, Philadelphia has gone up in my ambition rankings. I thought, last year when I did my rankings, that Philadelphia had antagonized its own fans with a lot of the things they had done in the previous year. But you look at what's happened in the offseason and the acquisitions that were made, led by the Maurice Edu move, they seem to be pretty good moves. Edu was solid last week, and it's only one game, but that's a team that I think might be better than some expected. And when you look at what they're doing as far as investing in youth development from an ambition perspective, it's pretty good stuff.
Absolutely. A couple of under the radar kind of moves, Maidana, Naguera, and then obviously guys like Shannon Williams and Omobi Okugo in that team. Williams not available right now, injured, but they look like they're on the up in the Eastern Conference. All right, moving on just briefly here. In MLS, New York and Colorado. This is the first game of the year for Colorado on the road against the defending Supporter Shield winners, and Pablo Mascheroni finally gets named head coach of that team. I just don't understand that, Grant. I don't know why it took so long. I don't know why they went through a sham of a process if they were only going to give him the job in the end. And if they actually did go through a process, how can Pablo possibly feel confident?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, Tim Hinchey, the team president in Colorado, seems to know what's up and has made some good moves, but this was not one of them. And he'll tell you that, well, we knew it was going to be Pablo all along, but I can't think of another example. I certainly couldn't find one in the history of sports when a team named its head coach on the opening day of the league season. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what's happened here. So, I think Colorado took a hit when Pareja left because it made it look like the organization was unprepared for for that to happen, and all the rest of us were pretty well prepared for that to happen.
Right.
So I don't get that at all, and I think it is a bit of a risk with Pablo Mastroeni. We've seen the Jason Kreis example of being able to move straight from the field into a coach's position, but honestly, that's an aberration when you look at the history of MLS and players moving right into those positions. So love Pablo as a player. I think he's got a lot to prove as a coach. We'll see if he can do it. In New York, in this game as well, you look at just the disaster last week in Vancouver. And, maybe that's somewhat expected when your best attacker and your best defender don't play due to the turf situation. But, Mike Peckey's got his new contract, which he earned last year, but this team needs to perform at home and get a win this week.
Yeah, and Peckey already sort of expressing some dissatisfaction with the fact they're going to have a ceremony and a banner raising for the supporter shield, which those fans absolutely deserve. But it's interesting to see Peckey. His interest is clearly in getting this team rounded into shape, and you feel like for New York, this is the window closes year. If they don't, they won a supporter shield, that's great. But if they don't win an MLS Cup in 2014, how long is Henry going to be around? I think this may be the last year of his contract. Hamilton Olave is on the downhill side of his best years. And then, whether or not they would be able to sort of fill in those gaps moving forward is an open question.
There are questions about the future of the team. I think Olave is still a tremendous player and has a huge impact on whether New York plays well or not, whether or not he's on the field. I do wonder how this Henry story is going to play out, because the longer the season goes on without any word on whether he's going to extend his contract, the tougher things get in New York, because he's such a big figure on that team, and you've got to be able to know, is he going to be around next year? So I would certainly hope that the Red Bulls do something with Henry sooner or later to resolve whether he'll be around in 2015.
Moving quickly, I want to talk to you about Brazil as we get closer to the World Cup, but I also want to give your thoughts on the MLS teams in the first leg of the quarterfinals in the CONCACAF Champions League. You had 2 1-0 wins, Sporting and LA, and a late equalizer for San Jose to get a draw against Toluca. I'm not confident, Grant, and we can talk about how these teams played toe to toe with the Mexican opponent, and maybe they're getting some grudging respect these days. It doesn't matter to me if you can't go to Mexico and make those results stand up, and I'm just not confident.
Well, it's hard to have much of a real take at this point, except to say that let's wait and see what happens next week. Because you've got if one MLS team gets through against the Mexican teams, I think that's good for the league. 2 is terrific. 3 would be unbelievable. But 0 would be crushing. And so the difference between 0 and 1 is pretty great. And if 0 MLS teams get through, I think then MLS is going to have to start asking some hard questions about why MLS continues to not get through. At the same time, I was pretty impressed overall with how the MLS teams did at home this week. I didn't expect all that much from San Jose, and they still go in at 1-1 in the return leg. And I thought Kansas City played a good game. You kind of wish, like with the LA situation, that they had built a 2-goal lead just to give them a better chance next week. But, they went toe-to-toe with 2 of the best teams in the Mexican League, and that's kind of all you can ask for.
Well, yeah, look, and again, over the course of 90 minutes, especially LA and Sporting, you take those performances, you go, hey, that's pretty, look at that, that's pretty good. In fact, Sporting lost that game against Cruz Azul, who's in first place in Liga MX for a large portion of it. But, as you said, 1-goal advantage is going to Mexico. If it was 2-0 Sporting, we might feel a little bit different. I certainly would. And the same thing goes with LA, although I think of the 3, LA is in the best position to make their goal stand up away to Tijuana.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Heading into this, I thought LA had the best chance to get through, and I think Kansas City's got a tough task against Cruz Azul in Mexico, but it's not impossible.
No, it's certainly not. All right, let's talk about Brazil. We are dating. It is a 90-day countdown now. We are 90 days away from the World Cup. We had the 100-day mark, which is one of those nice big round numbers that we like to write things around. I know you had a piece. I mentioned Wright Thompson's piece, and this is, and I will continue to do this because I think it's not just my responsibility, but it's what I'm interested in. the sort of division in Brazil over this World Cup as we head towards it. And I don't know if you maybe just frame it a little bit from your experience where the divide is, and how much of Brazil is disillusioned and how much of Brazil is excited, or if they're all of two minds.
Well, there are a lot of people with two minds about the tournament who are excited about the World Cup, who love the sport, want to see Brazil win the championship, but are very unhappy with how the tournament has been organized and have protested in the streets. And it's that sort of complex nature of all this that is so fascinating about the World Cup in Brazil. This wasn't a small group of people who protested during Confederations Cup last summer. It was 1.5 million people in various cities around the country. And yet, the middle classes and the upper middle classes, which have grown in recent years, they tend to be pretty excited about the World Cup coming. And these new stadiums around the country that they spent so much money on really are world class. The question is, should they be this nice when public money is not being spent as much on hospitals and infrastructure and things like that, schools? And how is it going to change the daily life of club soccer in Brazil? Because these stadiums are, honestly, they would be the envy of any team in Italy, just about, besides Juventus. And most teams in Spain or England, they're amazing stadiums, but they may be too nice. It's kind of a bizarre situation down there.
Is there a sense? I mean, this is an element of it, and it kind of brings those two parts together: the disillusionment with the government and the policies, and the lack of infrastructure and healthcare and everything else, and football. That lots of talk about these stadiums and the refurbishments and the new stadiums sort of pricing out Brazil's traditional soccer base.
No, it's definitely the case. It's a lot more expensive now to go see a Brazilian club game than it used to be. And at the same time, you have people who run the stadium saying that, well, this isn't very different from what happened to England when they brought in all-seater stadiums and you started seeing more families and women and older people going to games. And that was good for the game in England. They think that some of the violence that we see in Brazilian club soccer around the stadiums will go down as a result of this. And we'll just have to wait and see how it shakes out. At the same time, the minimum wage in Brazil is a lot lower than it is in England. And the price of soccer tickets in relation to the minimum wage is very different in Brazil than it is in England.
You take the good.
We'll see how it shakes out. I mean, it's definitely changing the day-to-day life of the entire country.
Yeah, gentrification is generally speaking a dirty word in a lot of cases, particularly if you are tied into those communities, and this is essentially soccer gentrification in Brazil. It's happening right now.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of people are going to get priced out, which is unfortunate because that's where a lot of the unique Brazilian fan culture has been. Most of it has been in those parts of society. And, I know a lot of people I spoke to down there, especially connected to the Maracanã, have looked at that stadium, this iconic stadium, as, the most democratic space in all of Brazil. In Rio de Janeiro over the years. And that's not so much the case anymore now that it's so expensive to get in and it's all about selling. And it's just a lot different.
It's going to be interesting. Grant Wahl, senior writer at Sports Illustrated. You can see him on television with Fox as well. Thank you for your time as always, Grant. I appreciate it.
Always good, Jason. Take care.
Let's take a break. When we come back, Andy Edwards will join us from Kansas City. We'll talk specifically about Sporting in the Champions League and their MLS campaign. Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
I got everything firing right that time, so I'm very excited. On the phone line with me now from Kansas City, Mr. Andy Edwards, Andy EDMLS on Twitter. Is that right?
Correct.
I got
Correct.
it right. Straight off the bat. Should have written it down. I never write anything down. Do you? I know you do radio, Andy. Do you have like written notes, copious notes?
Not copious. I do a little bit of prep work, maybe 10 minutes before a show, just for like key talking points, things that after the show, if I don't hit on, I'll be mad at myself. How did I not say that?
Right.
But that's about it.
You fly by the seat of your pants. It's the only way to do radio, right?
No, I completely agree. People that over prepare, you can tell over the air. It sounds like they're reading.
Absolutely.
So I try to stay away.
Absolutely. All right. So Andy's here to talk about Sporting Kansas City's season. They are working on two fronts already. They've got the MLS campaign underway. Obviously, opening loss to Seattle, late heartbreaking goal scored by Chad Barrett, and then they went into the Champions League. 1-0 win over Cruz Azul on Wednesday night at Sporting Park. Vibrant atmosphere. And let me ask you this, sort of a big picture take, Andy. I know you were in the building for that game, so you may not have seen LA and Tijuana. But there is, to me, it just feels like maybe it's the quarterfinals, maybe it's because it's the knockout rounds, but this sort of feels like a different sort of Champions League, that there's more engagement from the fans. People are more interested this time around.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that MLS teams are better than they've ever been, so we've got a better chance of one of our teams from the league actually winning this thing for the first time. I know RSL got really close a couple of years ago, and that was heartbreaking for a lot of people around the league, and especially obviously there in Salt Lake. But having Sporting Kansas City and the LA Galaxy, not even arguably, two of the best teams in the league, as two of the three that are alive in this quarterfinal round, I think it gives a lot of people hope. And Sporting Kansas City being defending MLS Cup champions, having a short off season and everything, I know they got the toughest matchups of all three of the teams, but I just think that the style of play and as long as this team has been together, the continuity that they have, I think they have the best shot of the three, because if they can get past Cruz Azul in this round, which is the toughest ask of any of the three teams, LA, Tijuana, whoever they get in that next round, I feel like if they could get over this first hurdle, they will really take a lot from that. And you don't want to play that team because Peter Vermes already, after just one league game, he already has put this Champions League run at the top of his priority list. He sat 5 guys on Saturday in Seattle and had 4 of the 5 available on Wednesday night against Cruz Azul. So he has made it 100% clear that he will sacrifice 2, 1, however many points he has to in the league in the first 3 or 4 games. He wants to win this thing more than anything.
Well, let's talk about Wednesday night then, and the way that game went. In the aftermath of it, it was this, a lot of respect coming from Cruz Azul's direction, and it was clear that Sporting, outplayed the Mexican leaders at various points during that game for long stretches, as a matter of fact. But at the end of the day, my issue, Andy, is that they didn't press their advantage enough in terms of the scoreline, and now they have to go to Mexico with a very narrow advantage.
Yeah, the game on Wednesday night showed that obviously the gap is still closing between the two leagues. It shows that we're still a little bit behind. MLS is just a little bit. Sporting Kansas City have never, ever had to work that hard to get a 1-0 victory, to maintain a 1-0 victory. I think it said a lot about their wherewithal that just 72 hours before they had given up a 93rd, 94th minute goal to lose a game, and they're clutching onto this 1-0 lead against Cruz Azul on Wednesday, and they find a way to get through that. And so, that's been a problem for this team over the last few years, is those late goals, and so they found a way to get past that. But everybody for Sporting Kansas City on Wednesday night was completely sold out on this. On the fact that Peter Vermes wants to win this more than anything. And we saw some performances from some guys, like especially Claudio Bieler, that I have never seen before. The way that he worked out on that field for the 88 minutes that he played they've never played a team like Cruz Azul. They've never played a team that wants to press them like they do. That's Sporting Kansas City's game, and so they really, I think, I was just so impressed with them on Wednesday night because there was so many firsts and so many new things that they had to face on Wednesday, and they got through it. Sure, you'd have liked to have had a second or maybe even a third goal if you could have got it, but they have a chance going into the second leg. Down in Mexico City. I think Cruz Azul probably still slight favorites, but they've got a bit of a chance. But this team has continually each year slowly done something better and better and better, and continue to kind of climb that mountain. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they do that again this year after they won an Open Cup in 2012 and MLS Cup last year. Champions League, I guess, would be the next logical progression in that. So perhaps they have it in them.
We'll get to the reasons it'll be difficult away to Cruz Azul in a minute, but I have to ask you, and I don't know that I'm the only one who is a little fuzzy on this particular player, but tell me about Kevin Ellis, Andy.
Man, Kevin Ellis is obviously the second homegrown signing that Sporting Kansas City ever made. I think he signed back in 2011. He was 19 years old at the time, and he had played a year of community college. He was with the team the previous preseason, and the team obviously had seen him through his academy days, and they thought he was a good player, but they didn't think they committed. They didn't think he was ready to put in the work day after day, and so they told him, go do a year of college. So he played at a local community college, and then they signed him the next preseason. He showed a completely different, not even player, but a different person, completely committed to fulfilling that dream of becoming a professional player. We have not seen any of him at all. I think that was just his fourth game at all competitions on Wednesday night. And, he has progressed so much. You can tell by just watching him in the game on Wednesday night, all the physical tools, they're there. He's got some speed. He ran by a couple of guys on Wednesday night. He's got the strength. You can just see that in the way that he's built. And now it's about finding him a permanent position and finding him somewhere he can get some minutes. Obviously, Chance Myers and Seth Sinovic, those two pretty good fullbacks in terms of MLS, and so minutes are going to be hard to come by. It's nice for him at the moment that Chance Myers is coughing up a few of those minutes. But Kevin Ellis has worked probably harder than anybody on this team over the last couple of years to improve and put himself in a position where he can just contribute at all for this team. And it's awesome to think that, on Wednesday night, 3 out of 4 guys on that back line for Sporting Kansas City were not only born or lived here for a while, but born and completely raised their entire lives in Kansas City. And so this team, they keep kind of pounding on the homegrown, the hometown drum. It really, really is like this team is becoming something completely different than we see it in a lot of places in the league, and Kevin Ellis is a big part of that now. And that's the most famous goal in the history of this team so far at the moment. That this is at least in Sporting Kansas City's mind, and the front office, the coaching staff, that's as big as it's been for them the entire time the club has existed.
Well, it will certainly be big if they can go to Mexico and make it stand up or get another goal and win this series next week. They have to play FC Dallas in between the first leg and the second leg, and I'm going to ask you about how Vermes will handle that. You mentioned resting 5 guys in Seattle. I imagine he'll be resting some guys against FC Dallas as well. But when they go to Mexico, we know about the altitude, and I wonder. You mentioned Cruz Azul pressed Sporting more than they've ever been pressed. That's normally Sporting's game. That made for a very sort of energetic, hectic, exciting match on Wednesday night. Can Sporting keep that up? Can they do that in Mexico? Can they play their regular style and do it for 90 minutes?
They won't be able to do it to a 100% level, obviously. If there's any team in MLS that can, it's probably Sporting Kansas City. I won't even go into the whole sporting fit thing. I'm over that at the moment. But no, I was impressed that both teams were able to go all 90 minutes Wednesday in Kansas City, not at altitude, not with the smog and everything. So I imagine Sporting Kansas City, and obviously they're holding the 1-0 lead. They're going to be without Sefcovic as well. He picked up his second yellow card in Champions League, and so he's going to be suspended for that. That's a big loss for them. I think Kevin Ellis will probably flip over to the left side, hoping Chance Myers can come back and play on the right. But it'll be a little bit more of a practical approach from Sporting Kansas City. I think they will. They can't go there and try and get a second goal early, because Cruz Azul had their chances on Wednesday night. They had quite a few chances. They had one that was in the back of the net but ruled offside. They had another one where the ball just completely got trapped under the guy, and he was all alone, one-on-one with Kronberg. Ike Opara was able to race back and save things. And he fell, however, had the handball on the line that at 100% should have been a penalty, should have been a red card. He's even come out and said so since then. So it's not like they didn't have their chances. It's not like they're not going to have more chances in the second leg in Mexico City. But for Sporting Kansas City, it's about finding that happy medium. Because any time, and last Saturday against Seattle is a perfect example of this, and as I said earlier, it's happened a lot to them over the last few years. Anytime they try and take their foot off the gas and try and preserve things, try and hold on to whatever lead they have or draw or whatever, they always give up late goals. It's happening in Seattle a lot. Dallas has done it a couple of times. They just don't know how to play any way other than 100 miles an hour all the time. And so they're going to have to reel it in just a little bit. But they can't do it too far because, like I said, they will get hit. Cruz Azul are better than pretty much any other team in MLS. And so they'll do a number on them. I think Peter Vermes, I would hope, if I'm a Sporting Kansas City fan, that Peter Vermes is finally learning that he brings off Benny Feilhaber for Ike Opara on Saturday in Seattle, and Ike Opara is on two different occasions on the same play at fault for the game-winning goal for the Sounders. So I would expect pretty similar to the normal style from Sporting Kansas City, which you see, but maybe just dial back a little bit less, try and keep a little bit more of the possession, and they're going to have their work cut out. That's all they could have asked for.
Let's spare a few words for Opara, by the way, a player who came into MLS with a lot expected of him. It didn't work out in San Jose. He had a rash of injuries that really kept him from developing his game. He moves to Kansas City to get an opportunity. We know he's going to be a backup to Beasler and Collin there. He played on Wednesday night because Collin was suspended. Is that correct?
Correct.
So how do you rate Michael Opara's development and clearly his performance in that game? You mentioned the last second clearance and the saving of that one goal. How overall did he play in that game?
Yeah, he was very good in that game. He and Matt Beasler, they got a lot of games together last year because I think Collin had it was either 2 or 3 yellow card accumulation suspensions.
No.
Collin had a couple of short injuries, whatever, and so they got a lot of games together. Opara got a lot of games together with Collin as well, because Beasler was gone with the national team. I thought in 2013, Ike Opara was probably the most surprisingly impressive player for Sporting Kansas City. I thought he had a great year. And it'll be tough in his second year here to kind of build on that. He's going to be given an even bigger role this season, which will be, I think this is a talent season for Ike Opara. We know that he showed flashes while he was with San Jose. We know he's got all the physical tools. We're going to learn whether he can really defend and whether, at times he can kind of marshal a back line, because Matt Beasler is going to be gone for an entire month pretty much for the World Cup later this year. And all those minutes, all those starts are going to go to Ike Opara. And Matt Beasler is, I know Collin gets all of the headlines because he's got the personality. He scores a few more goals and everything. But make no mistake, Matt Beasler is the absolute leader of that back line. I don't care, whether he's the captain of the team or not. That's his back line. Those guys look to him for direction. And so Ike Opara is going to have to step in and fill a bit of that void, and I think we're going to learn a lot about Ike Opara this year. But he was good on Wednesday night, and he's like I said, he's got all those physical tools. I think coming to Kansas City was a perfect situation for him, though, because if learning day by day under Peter Vermes, who was a very, very good center back during his playing career, you're only going to get better from that. And look what he's done for Matt Beasler. Matt Besler, and he will say this himself, going back to 2009, 10, even 2011 at times, Matt Besler was pretty soft as a center back. He was pretty soft mentally. He was pretty soft in his game on the field. And Peter Vermees sat him, benched him, made me think at times that it was just never going to work out with Matt Besler here in Kansas City, and he would eventually be gone because he rode him so hard because he saw something so much more in him. It really made me think he just hated Matt Besler on a personal level, the way that he really got after him sometimes, but it made him exactly what he is today. So I think Ike Opara probably got a pretty good situation when he landed here in Kansas City.
All right, looking to the weekend in the MLS match, welcoming FC Dallas into Sporting Park for the home opener in the league. Is there a sense, any indication of what Vermees will do with his lineup in this game? I mean, Dallas can score some goals.
Yeah, as hard as all those guys had to go on Wednesday night, I'd be surprised not to see any kind of rotation, even for Sporting Kansas City. It's the second game of the regular season. They had an accelerated preseason, so they're a little bit higher on the fitness scale than they typically are this time of year. But he's going to have to rotate some guys. There were some guys that were just looked absolutely dead after the game on Wednesday night. So I'd expect pretty much what we saw last week against Seattle. Dom Dwyer will definitely be starting. Claudio Bieler played 88 minutes on Wednesday, and he played 88 minutes at 100%. So he's probably not got more than 20 or 30 minutes as a sub on Saturday. We'll probably see Lawrence Olin come back into that midfield for Paulo Nagamura. They're going to try and manage his minutes. He's and for me, he's the most important player for this team because when they've got him in there in that midfield, when they don't have him in there, they really fall apart. And we learned that last year late in the season when they made the run to win the cup. It all started when he came back into the team, and so they're going to have to manage his minutes, I think, and because, like I said, Champions League is their number one priority at the moment. I also think Besler probably fits on Saturday. He played last Saturday, played Wednesday night. Colin got the rest on Wednesday, so he's got pretty fresh legs. Opara did not play more than 10 minutes on Saturday last week, and so if you kind of switch Besler out, Opara in, you get nobody that's played 3 games in 8 days. Everybody's played 2. Sinovic will probably be back in there. Hopefully Chance Myers can come back in. I think even when Sporting Kansas City swap out 3, 4, 5 guys, it's still a pretty strong team. They've done a good job of building a lot of depth for this team. But it's going to be a little bit tougher to come out with 3 points against Dallas. But they've got their own issues. I think at the back they're gonna leak a lot of goals this year, and the Sporting Kansas City can take advantage of that. I think it's going to make it a more entertaining game. Whereas I would have said, Sporting Kansas City really should go out there and really dominate this game. So it'll be a close one, but they can obviously come out with 3 points.
There you go. Andy Edwards. Follow him on Twitter, Andy ED MLS, covering the Sporting Kansas City there in Kansas City, also writing for MLSsoccer.com as well. Appreciate the time and the insight, Andy. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jason.
All right, there he goes. There goes Andy Edwards. Looking forward to those second legs in the CONCACAF Champions League to see if these MLS teams can follow through, make those, in the case of LA and Sporting, make those 1-goal leads stand up. Can they do that? I mean, this is the ultimate test here. If the gap is closing, because the gap, I think we all have this sense that it is. And we may see when we watch 90 minutes of soccer between Cruz Azul and Sporting Kansas City and Tijuana and LA and even San Jose and Toluca, we get this sense that the gap is closing. But until MLS teams prove it in the results, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Perception is built on who wins. Sporting Kansas City, were they the best team in MLS last year? Not across the bulk of their campaign. I mean, not across the full length of the campaign. The Red Bulls, by virtue of the more points. I know it's not a balanced schedule. It's not quite a fair judgment. But they might not have been the best team in MLS last year, but they went and won the MLS Cup. And we look at them now, we in retrospect, we go, Sporting Kansas City, best team in MLS. They get elevated to that perch because they won. The same thing's going to happen for MLS in the CONCACAF Champions League. The league knows this, and the teams know this. And it's nice if Marco Fabian comes out and says, MLS is on par with Liga MX. It's nice when managers say, that's a very good team. They play toe to toe. This league is as good as our league. Whatever. It's nice, but it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything until the results are there. All right. We talked to Grant Wahl. We've talked to Andy Edwards. It's Friday. You hopefully have a job. You hopefully have some crap to do, but not right now because you got to listen to this show. And the phone lines are open, 347-756-6276. I feel like we've had a deficit of phone calls this week. I feel like we've been short on phone calls. 313, you're on the air. Are you there? 313. And you hung up. Or you're not hanging up. Hello? Okay, I'm going to hang up on you then. 347-756-6276. Whoever that was either got stage fright or their phone crapped out on them or they fell down an elevator shaft. Hope it's not the last one. Well, hopefully that would be really bad. We've got a full slate of MLS. We talked a little bit about that already. Look forward to Grant Wahl's ambition rankings, by the way. We've also got European soccer to look forward to.
Hey, Jason. It's Isaac from Pittsburgh.
Isaac, give me a second to welcome you to the show. You just called. We had a malfunction. How you doing, Isaac?
I'm good. Well, yeah, I just want to talk about Sporting Kansas City, and I think that if anyone has a chance, any MLS team has a chance of moving on to the next stage, I think it's Sporting Kansas City because of their malleability, I guess you could say. Bear with me here. I'm going to compare them to the Japan women's national team. They were, they're famous for playing this beautiful style of soccer, but if you remember them in the Women's World Cup 2011, when it came time to get down and dirty, they were the dirtiest team because that's what it took to win. I think that's exactly what Sporting Kansas City is. They can play the beautiful game, but they can also grind it down like with the best of them. Okay. We saw it with a 25-foul game against Seattle, for Christ's sake.
Well, I think, Isaac, their default position is more of the down and dirty than the beautiful game. I think they have some players who can pass the ball around, but Sporting's idea, every time they step on the field, their idea is to go, as Andy said, 100 miles an hour, to jam the ball down your throat. And then when they don't have the ball, they're going to press you. At one point, I compared what Sporting does to Nolan Richardson's 90 minutes or 48 minutes of hell at Arkansas back in the day in terms of basketball. This is a team that wants to make you uncomfortable when you have the ball, and that means fouling a lot. So that's why I think that they are more likely to be called down and dirty than they are the beautiful game. But they're certainly capable of stringing things together and creating goals that you would say, well, that's real pretty. That's fantastic soccer. But they do it in this split-second flash kind of way. They don't necessarily wait you out. They're not going to pass the ball around like, say, RSL is going to do, or Spain or Barcelona, if you want to take it to that level. They're going to go as quickly as they can to get you on your heels so they can take advantage.
And that's why over a 34-game period, Sporting Kansas City can really piss me off because you have the ability to make this a watchable game, but you don't. It's not because you're not capable of doing that, but you don't because that's your system.
Right.
We saw Real Salt Lake struggle in this tournament format because they can play the beautiful game, but they can't get down and dirty necessarily as good as Sporting Kansas City. I think Sporting Kansas City, I think that's what makes them perfect for this tournament.
Okay, fair enough, Isaac. I mean, we'll see if they can make a one-goal lead, stand up at Cruz Azul. I still think LA is the best bet to get through. But look, anything is possible. I do for all of my doubts about the MLS teams going into the return legs, I do think it's possible, and I do think MLS is getting better, and I do think MLS is getting closer to Liga MX. But I just, based on the history of MLS teams in Mexico, based on the fact that Sporting, who, as you say, may be the best equipped to handle this tournament, is going to a difficult environment, smog, altitude of Mexico City, while LA is only one goal up against Tijuana. That's going to be a tough environment too. And San Jose is going in with an away goal on the other side, and they have to score. Those things make it even more, that those things make it so that I just can't be confident. It might happen, but I can't really believe it until it does. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, it might not be this year. Hey, listen, I got the parents coming over in half an hour, so I got to hurry up and vacuum. So thanks for taking my call.
All right, man. Go clean up. Thanks a lot, Isaac. Appreciate that. 347-756-6276 is the phone number. The rest of the show is completely and utterly yours. What is on your mind? What are you looking forward to this weekend? Do you have your eye on a game? United and Liverpool on Sunday. That's the one game. I'm looking at the Premier League schedule. That's really the one game that stands out that I go, okay, I'm interested in that one in England. The rest of these, looking through this schedule, Hull City, Manchester. Okay, Hull just beat City in what was that? The FA Cup? Was that the FA Cup? I get my knockout tournaments confused. Yes, the League Cup is over. City won that against Sunderland. So that was the FA Cup. Hull knocked City out of the FA Cup, right? So there's some retribution coming, I suppose. Or are we talking about something else? I don't know. Everton, Cardiff, Fulham, Newcastle, okay, Southampton, Norwich, Stoke, West Ham, dear Lord, Sunderland, Crystal Palace, Swansea, West Brom, Aston Villa, Chelsea, and then Sunday, United, Liverpool, and the North London Derby, which is the other game. So both Sunday games are looking good. The rest of that, Saturday, what? 757, you're on the air.
Hi, my name's Tay. And this is slightly off topic, but I want to say when I thought about the USA away kit for the World Cup 2014.
Yeah, I haven't really had a chance to. I think I mentioned that yesterday. The bomb pot kits that may or may not be coming out. We're waiting for them to drop for real. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with design. I mean, people are going to like it or dislike it. I don't have a problem with it. But the problem I have is the color scheme. Like, the red and blue is not an American red and blue.
Okay.
It's almost like a Russian flag, red and blue. So I almost feel like Nike made a design for Russian jersey. They didn't like it, so they kind of gave it to us.
Okay,
so that's what I felt like.
I'd have to like, and sometimes you get these leaks and these images online, and the colors are not exactly what the real jersey is going to end up looking like. I think we saw that with Philadelphia releasing their new shirt during Jersey Week. And on the front, they have that stripe. This is the home shirt, I guess. They have the stripe, that gold stripe that goes down the middle to separate the two. Mm-hmm. And then they had the numbers, and the numbers looked to be a different color than the gold stripe on the front for whatever reason. It looked mustard, even though that wasn't accurate depiction of what the color was, and they were in fact the same color. So I don't know that we've got correct colors here necessarily, but let's assume that we do. I'd have to hold up. What are we talking about? Like the American flag colors? Is that what you're talking about, Trey?
Yeah.
So you're saying that this shirt doesn't match the colors of the flag.
Yeah, I'm hoping what you're saying is right, but the thing about it's like, the American flag, the color is a brand. You don't change the Coke can's color with a pink instead of red.
Right. No, I got you. I got you. Yeah.
For me, that's important.
You're saying that the blue is a little too, I don't know, a little too royal, maybe.
It's too light.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too light, and red is too light. It's just like a Russian flag, So it's like, that's not us.
Okay, so
I'm hoping you're right.
Darken up the colors, Nike. Trey's on board, but darken up the colors. You might be the first person I've heard that said you're okay with this design. I think most people are flipping out over this, and we don't even know what the number is going to look like on it. I think that's a concern,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't particularly have a problem with design. We have bad design, good design. I don't mind, but the color for me is important. I hope you're right.
Okay, I appreciate the phone call, man.
All right.
So there you go. Look, phone lines are open. This is your show. We'll take anything. I'll take any topic you want to talk about. 347-756-6276 for the next half hour. We'll be here. In fact, one of the topics that may be top of mind for some people out in the Pacific Northwest, and I don't know if you're awake yet, don't know if you're listening live, but if you are, feel free to call in, is some debate over away ticket prices. If you're not following the We Are ECS account on Twitter, if you're not following some of these Seattle fan groups, then you have missed this. But there is a concern. There are some upset in the Pacific Northwest over away ticket prices, specifically as Seattle travels to San Jose to play the Earthquakes at Levi Stadium, the new building for the 49ers, which is where I guess San Jose is going to open their MLS campaign. Something about double ticket prices for away support. which on the surface sounds really bad. It sounds like exploitation. It sounds like those teams are punishing away support. They're either trying to limit away support by outpricing by pricing them out of the market, or they're simply trying to take advantage of those fans who are traveling to support their team. And you'll see this opinion, and this is certainly true in a lot of respects. MLS gets more vibrant, the atmospheres get better when you have away support. Yeah, we focus on the home fans, we focus on the songs and shots and I believe in Kansas City and boom boom clap things in Seattle. But a vibrant away support group can be as important to the atmosphere as those home fans. And it's bad if if away fans are being priced out in San Jose and maybe priced out in Vancouver. I'm a little behind on the details. So if you have any insight into this, and I think here at Soccer Morning we'll reach out. I'll direct producer Trevor to reach out to some of these groups to see if we can get somebody on the line, on the phone, to talk about these issues. But I want to make sure I understand what the problem is before I start throwing around accusations, before I start saying that Portland's front office is doing the wrong thing or San Jose is doing the wrong thing. I want to know exactly what's going on here. We're also on Twitter, at Soccer Morning. If you have thoughts on anything, throw them there. I will see them. Gringo Mark, he says, great show. Omar Gonzalez and the Galaxy were saved by Pinedo against Cholos. Similar to Kenny Cooper, own goal plays small. Own goal. Omar Gonzalez plays small when he could be our Matarazzi. Need to get nastier for the World Cup. Landon looks in shape. Cholo's not the same under their new coach. So there you go. Omar Gonzalez needs to get nastier. The opinion on Omar Gonzalez has turned a little bit. I mean, we went through that phase where, he might go play for Mexico, need to get him capped. He got capped. We see what he is. And now if you ask people, who do you trust more, Omar Gonzalez or Matt Besler, who wasn't on the radar necessarily, who wasn't getting as much hype as Omar Gonzalez, both of them MLS Defender of the Year, by the way, then I think people would say they trust Matt Besler more. Who do you trust more in the center of the U.S. defense? Omar Gonzalez or Matt Besler? Now, they're going to have different responsibilities. They're going to do different things. Omar's job, go and win everything in the air. Matt Besler, organizer, better positioning. That's partly why you would trust him a little bit more. He's a bit of the brains. Omar's a bit of the brawn. We just talked about that dynamic working in Kansas City with Ike Opara, who's going to have to step in for Matt Besler when Besler goes to the World Cup. This is the sort of this stand. We sort of see these guys as they're partners, clearly. We see this dynamic. We want an organizer, and we want a player who's a little bit nastier, a little bit more physical. And as Gringo Mark says on Twitter, perhaps Omar Gonzalez not physical enough. Needs to be more physical. Don't want to get yourself in trouble. And where's the line? I mean, look at Colin in Kansas City, just to use him as an example. Certainly nasty. Certainly gets stuck in. Certainly is willing to rough some people up. He rides a very fine line, and he somehow manages not to get himself sent off. He does accumulate yellow cards. He has a tendency to do that. But I think he's willing to trade the occasional suspension for his intimidation factor, for what he is able to do and how he is able to dictate things defensively for Sporting Kansas City. Back to this ticket issue, the away ticket issue and the pricing. Thomas 19064 on Twitter. This is the opening of a new stadium, isn't it? Maybe they want as many tickets available to locals as possible for that reason. If that's the case, then I need to hear that. I want to hear that from San Jose. I mean, maybe they don't have a responsibility to lay it out in explicit terms, but if there is a controversy brewing in response, they need to say that. Now, again, I don't think this is just about San Jose. I don't think it's just about that stadium. There are other away trips that our friends in Seattle that are upset about. And if I could find, let me see if I can find some of the tweets here, just to give you a bit more background on this. ECS Travel Monkey is one of the Emerald City supporters travel accounts talking about going places. Here's some things they've retweeted in terms of the pricing issues. 2 people could hit up the Exploratorium and have $3 left for bottled water. These are using the hashtag away robbery. They're trying to make jokes and make a little bit of light of this. The fact that these things cost, that these tickets for the San Jose game are costing them so much. You could do Alcatraz night tour and still have money left over for an Anchors team. 3 people could spend all day at the San Francisco Zoo for the same price as a ticket to San Jose. On 517, just a little bit of background here. San Jose Earthquake fans can pay $25 to support their MLS team in the new NFL stadium. Sounders fans want parity. It's $53 a head, apparently. So more than double the price for similar tickets for San Jose. Again, I want to know the whole story. I want to get both sides of this. I'm not going to hold the Seattle fans up as righteous if there's some extenuating circumstance. Maybe I'm wrong. And here's a tweet that maybe shed some light on it a little bit from M. McCarrick 8. Tickets for game at Levi's start at $45. What are away tickets? $53. So if that's the case, $8 is not a big difference. If the tickets start at $45, again, this is why I need to get the details, because I don't want to just take the word of one side, because there may be something here. And Mike is going to throw out that Seattle invented complaining. Okay, all right. Again, not trying to take sides necessarily, but I think that if this is an issue and the accusations are true in any sense at all, then we need to explore it. We need to know why. Away support important for MLS? Yes or no? Yes or no? I think the answer is yes. I talked to Phil Rollins from Orlando City not too long ago. One of the things we talked about was away support. He said, we're perfectly situated as a travel hub in Orlando to have a lot of away support, and we're going to foster that. We want people to come to our stadium and enjoy our experience and support their team when they are playing here against our team. That's the right attitude to have. Hopefully they won't be gouging those fans who travel from wherever, Miami or further, when Miami has a team. This is part of the deal. This is part of what is making MLS a unique product on the American sports scene. We don't do this anywhere else in sports. We don't do this. We certainly don't do the division. Yeah, you can go to an NFL game and support your hometown team who's not playing, your team away. You can go, but there's not going to be any. Well, here's the section. They do this at college, but they don't do this in the NFL. Here's the section for these fans. Here's the section for these fans. Now, let's just all get drunk together and have a fight afterwards. That's essentially what happens. I'm getting some links to some background, and I'll take a look into this. And now people are taking their shots at the ECS. Again, I'm not trying to set them up to say they're complaining. I don't know that they're complaining without cause. They probably do have a cause. Why would you complain without cause? At Sounder at Heart, which is the Seattle Sounders blog on the SB Nation network, the home of our friend Dave Clark, who we have on the show occasionally, there is a post on this situation. I can't read this entire thing. It's in prose. I can't pick out the pertinent details while I'm talking here. But he says, and this is the second paragraph, this isn't a we're too good to pay this money issue. It's not a we deserve to pay less than the local supporters issue. It's not a we think we're better than you, so we should pay less issue. Accessibility is one of the most important issues in ensuring the growth of soccer in the United States. Apparently, they've taken a beating on Reddit for complaining about this. So this is something. I wanted to bring this to our audience. I wanted to talk about this. Because if this is an issue, then it needs to be addressed. But it seems to be developing. If it's not developing, if there's hard facts, then bring them to me. 347-756-6276. The forum is yours. If you have an issue with the way ticket prices anywhere, if you've seen an issue, let's talk about it. Because again, MLS dependent on away support to help fill out some of these atmospheres. Rico on Twitter. Any support is important for MLS. So this is very true. Boil it down. Absolutely. Any support is important. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look what's happening in Europe, in England specifically. Interesting news today that Robin van Persie has committed his future to Manchester United. Let's just go ahead and end all that speculation that Robin van Persie is upset, that he doesn't like David Moyes' tactics, that other players are getting into his space and causing. Wait, he said that before. He has said that before. He certainly addressed the issue. This is a direct quote from Robin van Persie earlier in the season. Our fellow players are sometimes occupying the spaces I want to play in. And when I see that, it makes it difficult for me to come to those spaces as well. So that forces me to adjust my runs based on the position of my fellow players. And unfortunately, they're often playing in my zones. I think that's a shame. Is he taking a shot at David Moyes there? I mean, he's voicing a concern. Is that a shot at David Moyes? David Moyes is the one responsible for putting the team out and establishing the tactics. So now when Robin van Persie says, I'm very happy with my teammates, and I'm very happy with my manager and his staff. Sessions we have in the training ground are fantastic, blah, blah, blah. I've been a professional footballer for 12 years. There's no doubt I'm learning new things and progressing with David Moyes. So does that cancel out everything he said before? And here's a question posed by my friend Richard Whittle at the Counterattack blog on the score.com website. Do we take Robin van Persie's word at face value? These words, the ones that say, I am happy at United. I am happy with this manager. I really enjoy this situation. Do we take that at face value? We buy that line? Or do we imagine that behind the scenes, as per the sources that are speaking to journalists in England and elsewhere, he's still not happy. He might want to leave. Which one is more believable? Where do we put our stock? Because Robin van Persie could have ulterior motives for coming out and saying, I'm having fun. Well, what the hell are they? What are they? I don't understand why we're going to we have this suspension of belief. We have to, I suppose. Let's be cynical about this because the world has taught us to be cynical. The suspension of belief when it comes to a player flat out saying what he wants. That can't mean what it means. No. He's happy. Well, he's not scoring as many goals as he did last year under Ferguson. And Moyes has this team in 7th place or wherever they are at the moment, and they're not going to make the Champions League. And how could Robin van Persie possibly be happy with that? Wait, what did he say? He said he is happy. He said he's learning from David Moyes. He's saying he's taking a closer look at the way coaches work. He says he really enjoys working under him, absolutely convinced things will pick it up and they'll turn it around. He's saying that? Well, that can't be true. BS. Nonsense. Nope. Wait, hold on. Here's a tabloid that says Robin van Persie is upset, and sources close to him say that he wants to leave United after the season. We're more likely to believe that because of that, because that fits our narrative, right? Because that fits the story that is Manchester United in 2014. Because how could anybody possibly be okay with the way things are at Old Trafford right now? And it must be David Moyes' fault. This falls into the same category as all of us who are quick to judge players who make moves counter to our notion of what league is more important or more prestigious, or players should always be trying to move up, 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 up. Michael Bradley goes from Roma to TFC. Well, that's must be why, because Michael Bradley has no ambition. Not necessarily. 785, you're on the air.
Hey, this is Jeff. How are you?
What's up, Jeff?
Hey, just a couple of things about CCL and then road ticket price.
All right, let's go.
Hey, I'm a Sporting KC fan. Just want to let you know, CCL stuff, we had a large contingency of Cruz Azul fans up in KC the other night, and it was fantastic. Spread all through the stadium, and it was just really amazing. We've had it for, RSL was in town last year, huge fans. Seattle, Portland have brought big numbers, and it's just a really great thing. And anything to foster that is fantastic. our management, it's surprising to hear the ECS stuff, but our management has brought in, like for our road games, for SKC road games, we just get comp tickets. God knows if Heineman's footing the bill or who's making that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'll be headed to Colorado here in 2 weeks, made a couple other road trips with the team, and they just, hey, you want to go to the game? Just let us know who you are, and we'll get you your ticket.
Yeah,
for you.
I'm still looking into this particular issue with the ECS, and again, I'm not going to throw stones at them, and I'm not going to throw stones at San Jose or Portland or Vancouver or whoever else is at issue here until I know all the facts. I'm getting told that there was a thread on Reddit that showed the Quake fans are paying the same prices for that game at Levi Stadium. So I don't know what the truth is right now, but I think we can all agree, Jeff, that as you said, vibrant away support adds to the atmosphere, makes the game more fun. I mean, who wants to be, this? I don't know. I'm just in the particular case of you guys with the Cruz Azul fans. As long as the proper safety measures are taken, as long as when the alcohol flows, it doesn't lead to bad things after the fact. Who wants to, what's better than sort of having a back and forth with those fans while the match is going on, while your teams are down there fighting it out on the field?
Yeah, exactly. No, and I'll tell you, regarding that kind of thing, there were a good number of Cruz Azul fans that got tickets down in the members stand, down in the Cauldron, and they were very quickly escorted to another section of the stadium, just, and this is prior to the game, simply to avoid issues.
Right. That's a different thing.
They weren't necessarily thrilled with it because they're like, hey, we legitimately bought tickets here. And they're like, hey, we legitimately don't want fights.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, I'm absolutely okay with that. Doesn't matter if you paid for those tickets, and first of all, why are members selling tickets to Cruz Azul fans?
Yeah, that's another issue, but I'm not in that position to make that call.
Okay, so. All right. Now,
one more quick thing with CCL and for hope going forward for all the teams involved is road goals are a tiebreaker, are they not?
They are.
So on the off chance that any of the three MLS teams involved manage, well, especially LA or KC, get a road goal, does that not mean that they'd have to go up 3-0 or 3-1 for the aggregate then?
Well, actually, what it means or
3-2, I guess.
If Kansas City gets a road goal, Cruz Azul has to score 3 to win. If they score 2, Kansas City wins.
Yeah.
Right. If
going forward, this makes me optimistic. Like if we can pound one in somehow, even off a set piece or something. That's good looking going forward, I'd say.
No, it does help. It does help that there is a bit of a safety net there, Jeff, in the fact that, again, you can lose 2-1 and still win the series, but you have to get the goal. So there's that to consider. How much do you press? When we talk to Andy Edwards, he says they can't afford to go their normal 150 miles an hour to try to get that goal straight out of the gates because they'll find themselves in a world of hurt. I appreciate the phone call, Jeff. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. 562, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Jason?
What's up? Who's this?
Byron.
Hey, Byron. Where are you from, Byron? I always forget.
LA.
LA. Byron from LA. What's up, man?
I just wanted to talk about the CCL as well, just relating to the last call.
Okay.
I went to the Tijuana Galaxy game.
Yes.
And the atmosphere was great. There was probably maybe 50-50.
Okay.
There were over 15,000 fans. And, I got to say it was better than a regular season MLS game. Definitely better than against Ross Salt Lake last weekend. And just like, who was it, Jeff?
Yes.
Said about the Cruz Azul fans. Tijuana had their own section, but there was so much, they were really just spread out the whole stadium, and they had their little section. And after the game, there wasn't a better feeling as a Galaxy fan. They were just trash talk the whole game. And, they were drunk and mad.
Mm-hmm.
We had our little walkway to get through them until they started throwing stuff. So, I guess it always happens.
Byron, you reminded me of something. I saw this. I think I saw this on Reddit, as a matter of fact. There were reports that there was a report, at least in the Spanish language press, that said that the Tijuana bus was attacked on the way back down to Tijuana, and it may have actually been. I think the Reddit thread said Chivas USA fans, but it may have actually been Guadalajara fans who got involved and did something bad to the bus for Tijuana as they were going back. I don't know if you've heard this or not.
Yeah, but I think it was Chivas Mexico fans.
Right, Chivas de Guadalajara fans. Absolutely. I don't think it was Chivas USA fans. I mean, they made we're talking about LA and they're the colors are the same. I guess you could jump to that conclusion, but no, I'm sure it's a thing about Mexican rivalry rather than just rather than anything to do with MLS. That's bad. We don't want to see that. That's the stuff that's going to get soccer in trouble. And I've said this before, Byron, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, and I'm sure most people would. Soccer does not get the benefit of the doubt. So if there is any sort of violence or any kind of hooligan behavior or fans are misbehaving, we get fights. Soccer gets a black eye that other sports in this country don't get. They get a pass. The NFL gets a pass. Major League Baseball.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
When Major League Baseball has a man end up in a coma because he is beaten by the fans of an opposing team, it's a story and it's a big deal. But baseball doesn't get this across-the-board criticism.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So soccer's got to be, and I know it's not fair. It's completely unfair, but soccer's got to do a better job. So hopefully that stuff doesn't happen. Don't do that stuff. It's fans everywhere. Not want to pick on Guadalajara fans, but don't do that. What are you doing? All right, Byron.
One last thing. Their actual supporters group even had their own section on the top level by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even let them get out. They let them go out until everyone clears the stadium, because that would have been worse.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Yeah, like again, I think that these have been growing pains for a couple of years now, and you see this in MLS stadiums. The lack of understanding by security. Sometimes it's on the front office as well to understand. Look, it shouldn't happen. You want to trust people. You want the visiting fans to come in and have a good time and drink their beer and go home, and everybody's happy afterwards. But look. Mm-hmm. Sports brings out these passions. On occasion, you have posers who want to make a big deal out of being a soccer fan and be tough. Sometimes it's just, look, you're a little liquored up, you're a little pissed off your team lost, or, hey, we just hate you for wearing that color, and things happen. So why not take those precautions? Why not be smart about this? I did see, was it at the StubHub Center where there was a section in one of the ends? There was a section between Tijuana fans and LA fans?
Oh yeah, there was nothing in between.
Right. That's the standard way. That's the standard way to do this. That's the standard way to do this around the world. And as you said, it's also important to have the fan groups exit separately, have them segregated. I mean, look, this is standard around the world, but MLS is still kind of learning this, and we just don't want to see those incidents that are going to give the sport a black eye. MLS can't afford to have that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was surrounded by Tijuana fans because there was so much. So, I mean, I guess the security wasn't too bad, but I think they should do a better job.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the call, Byron. Appreciate it, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, Byron out in L.A. A couple of minutes left, 347-756-6276. Back to this away ticket price issue. Seattle people are waking up to this, that we're talking about it and hitting us on Twitter. And again, I'm going to have to do some research. We're going to have to look into this. I want to get people on the people from the ECS and the people that have written about this on Sounder at Heart to try to get some background, because it doesn't seem to be just about that one game at San Jose in the brand new NFL stadium where tickets cost $53. It seems to be something else at the heart of this, and it may be a trend. And if I am mischaracterizing this, I'd rather put it to the side, get as much information as possible, reach out to some people, and come back to it. But it's out there. Go check out the post. I think it's Justicar on Twitter. Wrote a post on Sound at Heart about the issue that I plan to read as soon as this show is over in the next 5 minutes, and then we can come back around to this. Because again, what MLS needs to make sure that they do is avoid alienating any fans. Don't alienate anybody. Don't alienate away fans. Don't alienate, supporters groups. Don't alienate anybody. That doesn't mean that they should get their way and you should be permissive. But every now and then we see these issues pop up with these fan groups, whether it's cursing and for televised games and the chance with cursing and the league cracking down and the teams cracking down, or banners that aren't allowed, or seat prices go up, or fans get moved, as we saw recently in Chicago. A supporters group gets moved for what reason? Is that a proper way for the team to go about dealing with that group and perhaps wanting to sell those seats to a different type of fan? Is that the way to go about it? Does the end justify the means? If you're making a little bit more money on the back end, does that make it okay that you alienated a couple hundred fans who have been there supporting you for the past 10, 12, 15 years? I don't think so. I think that these teams need to take these equations and always err on the side of the support that's already there. This is the same thing that pisses me off about cell phone contracts. I'm sorry about this. If you're a new customer, you get the cherry deal. You get like the $49.99 package with everything. You get texting, you get all this data. Look how many minutes you get for $50. Meanwhile, I've been with you for 15 years and I'm paying $150. What? What is that? Why? I'm going to have to leave my cell phone company and pay to get out of my contract so I can go get the good price somewhere else because you are chasing new dollars, and new dollars mean more than loyalty. I know it's a different thing. I am not as loyal to my cell phone company as MLS fans are to their teams. Certainly not. I'm not equating the two things. So let's just, but the analogy applies because you are still treating the new or the occasional or the family of four differently than you're treating the people who are most ardently on your side and who bring the most to the atmosphere that helps you sell your games. That's the case. That's the case. All right. Excellent week of shows. Fantastic stuff. We had the news yesterday. If you missed this, by the way, I put out there sort of randomly that I'd love to have Stu Holden sit in, guest host this show one day. It got a little bit of momentum on Twitter. Stu noticed it. He said if he got 50 retweets, he'd come on this show next week. And we got 80 retweets in like 2 minutes. So we are very much looking forward to lining that up. We're working on behind the scenes to get Stu Holden on this show. Thank you very much. Trevor wants it to be Tuesday so he can say it's Tuesday on Soccer Morning. And that is where I need to get away from this whole thing that's happening right now. I need to get away from this. iTunes, ratings and reviews. Do that, please. Help us jump up those charts. I think we're at like 240. Need to get that higher. Let's go. Let's go. Soccer Morning on Twitter. Davis JSN for me. Send me some emails. I will talk to you, ECS people. I will talk to you people about this away support issue and the ticket prices. I definitely want to know what's going on, and we'll review this again next week. That's it. Thank you to Grant Wahl. Thank you to Andy Edwards. Thank you to the guys that called today. I'll talk to you on Monday. Bye.
Days on the boulevard I landed. We used to kick routines and the presence was fitting. It was I, the abstract.